Hey, Andres, how are you doing? Unmute, unmute, unmute. Unmute your staff. It's mute, mute.
Okay, now it should be okay. It was mute by default.
So can you can now you can see me, right?
Yes.
So you understand how to start and how to proceed further.
Yes, there are of course a lot of those like short or those how to say those short capital letter names like RPC, LLP, whatever. Nobody will remember them anyway. So it's but okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Andres Pihor, and I'm the International Associate of Finjuris Counsel. Finjuris Counsel, originating from United Arab Emirates, is an international legal advisory firm with its presence across the globe. Our areas of expertise include financial crimes, fintech, international expansion, and taxation. With offices in Dubai, India, US, Singapore, UK, and Estonia, we possess a network of consulting partners in over 30 countries. The topic of today's webinar is regulatory hurdles for crypto startups. And the primary goal of this webinar is to educate members of the crypto community about anti-money laundering policies and digital assets regulation, as anti-money laundering is a critical component of cryptocurrencies' decentralized systems nowadays. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type them into the question box in your Zoom control panel. We will bring them up at the end of the webinar. So now, without further ado, I would like to take the liberty to welcome our first speaker, Ms. Alice Kemp. Alice is a barrister at RPC LLP, specializing in criminal fraud, investigation, and litigation conducted by regulatory bodies, including HMRC and the SFO. She has assisted both corporates and the high net worth individuals in complex criminal investigations, including proceeds of crime and freezing forfeiture orders relating to crypto assets. RPC is one of the 8 founding members of the Crypto Asset Fraud and Asset Recovery Network, which brings together leading professionals from across the UK and beyond in law, accountancy, corporate intelligence, and asset recovery to develop and share best practice in this rapidly evolving sphere. Alice is a member of RPC's Crypto Asset Focus Group, which brings together a range of expertise from across the firm, including commercial acumen, civil dispute and asset recovery specialists, and criminal and regulatory investigators and prosecutors. Alice is also the host of RPC's podcast, Taxing Matters, available on Apple Podcasts, Acasts, and Spotify. Taxing Matters gives businesses and advisors easily digestible insights into tax disputes and the latest cases and developments of the law, including crypto assets. So over to you, Alice, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that kind introduction, Andres. So we will launch right in, if that's okay with everyone. When considering the crypto world, the UK's regulatory landscape can best be described as developing. It has been, in fact, it has been said that by some commentators that the UK is an outlier in the crypto digital asset space for precisely this reason. There is no all-encompassing regulatory framework for cryptocurrencies and crypto assets. And it's because of this very lack of a coherent framework that the UK's regulatory framework is one to watch. There are multiple regulators doing mostly coherent responses, and there are a number of recent government consultations looking at what should be regulated, what needs to be regulated, and equally as importantly, what should not be regulated, particularly as the UK strives to become a global hub for crypto asset business. To date, the regulatory landscape of the UK has been a series of isolated steps responding to specific concerns, but there have been a number of developments in the past couple of months that have given a sort of flavour of what the regulatory landscape might look like for crypto in the future. So turning firstly to the all-important question of anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing, which I'm going to refer to as AML for short, because the UK has never seen an acronym it didn't want to adopt. The Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA, is the UK's main financial services regulator with authority over banks, building societies, credit unions, and other entities engaging in financial services. And it regulates those entities' AML compliance. The HMRC, or Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, also shares a responsibility to investigate money laundering offences with the FCA and with other agencies such as the National Crime Agency and the Serious Fraud Office, which aren't really relevant to this conversation. HMRC has jurisdiction to investigate a money laundering compliance which does not relate to a financial services entity. So basically anything outside the FCA's sphere. In January of 2020, so a couple of years ago now, the money laundering regulations were amended to require various crypto asset providers to register with the FCA. Now, whether or not a crypto business was required to register depended on the nature of the business, but in its simplest form, which obviously indicative only, there are of course legal loopholes, registration was required if a business was a crypto exchange or a custodian wallet provider. The FCA operated a temporary register between January 2020 and the 31st of March this year, which allowed crypto businesses to continue to operate in the UK while the FCA processed all the applications. That temporary register has now closed, and all businesses requiring registration will need to be registered before they begin trading. So those businesses which are required to register need to take a risk-based approach to AML compliance. In practice, this means that crypto businesses should perform AML risk assessments on their customers and their spheres of business and use that to implement a proportionate response. This can be distilled down to a number of core requirements, including an AML compliance program.
Excuse me, Alice. The voice is there, but it's not very clear. Can you adjust your microphone or some, like it's maybe something is,
is this any better?
Something is interfering, kind of. Sorry. Yeah.
Is this any better?
Yes, it seems so. I hope.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, it seems that I'm going to have to be just a bit closer, so you get a real close-up of my face.
Yes, that's good.
Okay. So as I was saying, there are 4 main core requirements which an AML compliance program complying with the FCA's requirements in the UK can be distilled down to, including customer due diligence and transaction monitoring in line with regulatory obligations. This should be also including screening for adverse media stories, politically exposed persons, sanctions screening, which is of course particularly significant at the moment, and the like. There are then reporting obligations. So registered crypto businesses must submit suspicious activity reports to the NCA if they become aware of money laundering activity. In fact, a failure to submit those reports is itself an offence. And an individual must be appointed as the Money Laundering Reporting Officer, or MLRO. That person must oversee the business's compliance program and also have sufficient knowledge of the money laundering risks and authority to carry out those functions. So The final requirement is also training to ensure that everyone in that business understands their AML obligations and is complying with them. That includes participating in the regulatory changes that are coming. Now, I should note that while crypto businesses which are not operating as current crypto exchanges or custodian wallets are not currently required to register with the FCA, businesses which deal in certain types of crypto assets, including certain tokens like security tokens, or undertake specified activities will also need to register with the FCA on a separate basis. Other than that caveat, at present, none of this applies to NFTs or any other crypto business. So there is quite a wide gap there for the regulatory landscape. And it's just to be clear again, it is still an offence to carry out any money laundering activity, so involving yourself or your business in any dealing with the proceeds of crime, and all of the general criminal law principles still apply. So fraud, theft, computer misuse, all of those still apply. But in terms of the AML compliance, there is a gap. So that's AML. What about other regulatory steps? In short, there have been a move to enhance the protections applying to small and unsophisticated investors, recognising that crypto assets are volatile in a way that may or may not be appreciated by the general public. So in October of 2020, the FCA banned the sale of crypto derivatives and exchange traded notes to retail investors. In January of 2021, Her Majesty's Treasury, AT&T, issued guidance via the UK's Crypto Asset Task Force to bring certain kinds of crypto assets within the scope of the financial promotions regulations and to look at whether or not there needs to be a broader regulatory approach. This broader regulatory approach was adopted in January of 2022 to address misleading crypto asset promotions and to bring cryptocurrency adverts within the line of other financial advertising. So basically to ensure that any advertising was fair and clear and in line with the standards required of financial products. So as part of these enforcements and as part of these rules, the Advertising Standards Authority has been clamping down on crypto assets and crypto asset advertising, including, some of you may have seen, the high-profile condemnation of Arsenal Football Club for its promotion of fan tokens in what was cited by the agency to have been a misleading and irresponsible way. So these developments were followed in March by a statement from the FCA and the Prudential Regulatory Authority saying that firms have an obligation already arising out of their registration to be clear with customers, have responsible and appropriate controls in place, address money laundering, and adequately protect clients' assets that they are holding or managing. In March of 2022, so just recently, the Office of Financial Sanctions Implementation, the Financial Conduct Authority, and the Bank of England all issued a joint statement reminding cryptocurrency service providers that they have an obligation to contribute to sanctions enforcement. So they should be screening sanctions in relation to any transaction which they are undertaking, particularly where there is a risk of sanctions evasion, high-risk wallets, or there are multiple services designed to obscure customer identities. So with these developments in mind, is anything further required of the UK's regulatory landscape? Well, in a recent High Court decision called Tulip Trading, some people have started to question whether or not there does need to be further regulation, particularly to clarify the obligations on developers and to protect the public and investors. So in that decision, the court refused to accept developers and or controllers of assets owed a duty of care to either restore stolen assets or to undo known frauds which occurred on the blockchain. The court decided that was not part of their obligations. Again, whether or not that is going to stay the case, matter for the future. So a number of other commenters have also called into question the FCA's current ban on stablecoins, advocated for them to be considered to be akin to e-money. That looks like it's going to happen. So what will the regulatory future look like? Well, over the past month, various government stakeholders have started to give glimpses as to what the future might look like. The Bank of England has said that regulation for the crypto asset sector should be based on equivalence. So basically, if a crypto-related financial service is acting in the same way as an already regulated financial service, it should fall under the same rules, which seems sensible. The government have also announced that they would bring in a number of different reforms, including consulting on a world-leading regime to bring non-stable coin cryptocurrencies into a regulatory landscape, ask the Law Commission to look at the legal status of decentralized autonomous organizations, examine the tax treatment of various DeFi loans and staking, and the unclear and inconsistent tax treatment in general to ensure that UK tax system is a world-leading market, and to establish an engagement group between government, regulators, and the industry to make sure that there is a closer connection to that industry. They're also looking to introduce a financial market infrastructure sandbox. I can't give you any more information on that, because it's not quite what it will look like, other than it will be a market in which distributed ledger technology can be tested. They're going to explore the application of blockchain technology in issuing sovereign debt, and one which everyone seems to have gotten excited about is working with the Royal Mint to issue an NFT this summer. So all of this enthusiasm for crypto has been tempered slightly by the results of a report looking into whether or not the UK should introduce a central bank digital currency, which concluded that not only was there no compelling case for doing so, introducing one could pose significant risks to UK households, businesses, and the monetary system in the future. I'd also like to say a word of caution. As I hope has been clearly outlined, a lot of the developments in the crypto regulation are a matter of watch this space, and that holds true in relation to tax. HMRC have issued crypto guidance to grapple with these complex issues around tax point, domicile, and when exactly what type of tax is going to be payable in relation to crypto transactions, which gives a helpful insight into what HMRC are thinking in relation to crypto assets and how they should be taxed. But it isn't law. These assumptions have not yet been tested in the courts, so we don't actually know for certain what the rules are or what they're going to be. What we do know is that HMRC have at least 20 open criminal investigations into crypto assets and cryptocurrencies, which have allegations of tax fraud and tax evasion. HMRC have also taken action to freeze and forfeit what they consider to be the proceeds of crime, including of tax evasion, and have recently frozen crypto assets and NFTs valued 1.4 million. So a not insignificant sum. So what's the takeaway for crypto regulation in the industry? The main takeaway is that this must be considered as the UK gearing up to be as crypto friendly as possible, while creating a regulatory framework that is a robust one and ensures that the investing public are protected, and crypto is not merely regarded as a vehicle for laundering funds. Whether the government will strike the right balance on its first try remains to be seen, but there are clear indications that they're alive to the challenges and are listening to the industry. And in that regard, if I can point you in the direction of the Crypto Fraud Asset Recovery Network, there is a lot of useful information there as well. So with that, thank you very much for your time and attention, and I will pass back over to Anders.
Thank you for such wonderful insight, Alice, and we hope that there will be questions for you at the end as well. So now moving on to our next speaker, I would like to welcome Mr. Luis Rodrigues Soler. Luis Rodrigues is an international AML CFT external expert, qualified and registered in SEP Black, CEO of compliance and head of compliance in CE Consulting. He's a well-recognized international expert, consultant and auditor with more than 30 years of experience working with the public, industrial and financial service organizations, including leadership roles in finance, controlling, in internal audit and compliance CRC that is focused on AML, CFT, and financial crime and fraud. He worked half of his professional career as head of audit and full compliance and AML, CFT in private banking, and the other half as a leading consultant and auditor teams working in the main international Big Four, performing advanced AML, CFT, and compliance models against white-collar crimes for covering prevention of all financial crime risks and compliance, helping top management in organizations on configuration and functional and technological procedures under their responsibilities in internal control. Certified AML CFT with more than 300 external expert AML CFT signed reports, more than 100 corporate defense projects, and more than 2,000 hours of lessons in universities, associations, masters, forum, and national and international conferences. He is ACAM's official teacher, former lecturer of Spanish state security official bodies. He was also a vice president in INBLAC, AML Expert Spanish Association, and IIA, Institute of Internal Auditors, for 4 years, and he is vice president of ASC Black. In the international crypto ecosystem, he is recognized pioneering expert in the real establishment of cutting-edge AML CFT systems, even anticipating legislators in his practical and realistic approaches. Now I'm giving the word to Luis. Please continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andres, and the rest of organizers. May you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. First of all, I want to thank you to Finjuris and to you, Andres, for this presentation and for let me share this time with you and all the delegates that are in the other side of the screen. Then I will try to share my presentation because I prefer to show some figures and some images for helping me to expose my speech. I will try and let me know if you can see the screen in that sense. Wait a minute. May you see the screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay. I don't know. I don't know. I have the permission for selecting. Wait a minute. How can I share the presentation? I don't know if I have the permission for let my presentation, and if is it not possible, I can speech, but it's a pity if you cannot see the PowerPoint. I don't know. Okay.
Just a moment. Let's.
It's because in video I can see that I have camera for FaceTime.
Can you try again to share your screen? It should be like workable.
Okay, I will try. Now?
No, it's not there.
No. No.
For some mysterious reason, it's not there.
Okay. You don't mind. Then it's a pity because some of the figures I think it's more interesting to see some figures, but I can explain if it's not possible. Okay, you don't mind. You don't mind, Andres. Okay, I will share my contents with you then, and I don't know if you see my face or now.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
And
I will begin. I will split my presentation in five topics for trying to explain you what is the global environment regarding compliance and mainly money laundering prevention and cryptocurrency and crypto assets in our concrete country of Spain. Then the first topic will be what is the general landscape of the general universe for fintech, crypto, and AML regulation. Second, we will try to explain you what are the main requirements to operate legally in Spain in this universe and with the players that are in this market. Number three will be, it's a title saying coming off the black, gray, and white list. White lists because I don't know if it's the case in your countries, but in our country, the regulator and the official administration is still very young in this field. Then they only has issued some documents, not real official documents, that issue to the market saying that you must be careful with this individual, with this company for her, that are offering this kind of services and products, but it's not an official list as black, gray, and white. I will explain these different kind of lists. Number four, yes.
One moment, can you try to share your screen again? It's
okay.
Just, yep.
Okay. May you see?
No, it's not there.
No. Now I'm sharing now the index, the table of contents. If it's not, wait a minute. No, no.
You should be as a co-host in this session. So
no, you don't mind.
So theoretically it should work, but yeah.
No,
okay.
you don't mind, Andres. If it's possible during the presentation, okay, it's better. And if not, I will forward you the presentation to the organization, and you can share with the attendees.
Yes.
Then after the presentation, because I think it could be very useful for them for trying to give as an advice for sharing the same thoughts regarding the approach that I recommend to put in place in each country, depending on the regulation that you have. Okay?
Okay.
Number four, then, is the AML approach recommended, considering that the universe of cryptos this year is more than 10,000. It's a big amount of players in this field. Then it's not logical that more than 10 years from the beginning, still is very young, the regulation and legislation. And in my view, is not a logical situation. It's a clear reality that all the supervisor and regulator need to try to comply with. And finally, the regulatory challenge of the different participants in this ecosystem. Okay, then based on this, the three main questions, considering this universe of more than 10,000 crypto in this year, is what? What is this? Then regarding what is the factors that describe this topic is the uncertainty of this kind of products and market, the liquidity, what about the liquidity of these products, what about the cost effectiveness, what about the trust on these products, what about the scam, the swindle, and how all the supervisors are afraid about this potential scam, this potential swindle. I insist that it's not more the product is the man or the company or the individual that use this as a tool for trying to do the scam on the swindle, not the product itself. Second question is why? And this is the problem, that null or uncertain legislation in each country. It's a global problem, but need to be focused in local approach and with local regulation. And the ignorance of not only of the people in general, the ignorance that demonstrates that most of the supervisor and legislator are still lazy, in my opinion, to try to study what is this new reality. And how? How is the third question? Then avoid sanction. How can I play this game in this young market compared with the fiat market? And for trying to avoid sanction, to try to not to do illegalities, unknown and scattered, and technology. Then, following with this, two main matters in present time that we need to face. First one is that traditional banking is dying. It's clear that traditional banking is having a lot of problems in all the countries, not only with the absence of a study of this kind of products, even with the dealing with young people and the senior people. Then if the banks don't change the mind regarding to how to face this universe, in my view, will disappear in the future. And currencies are migrating to crypto world. It's clear because it's digital. And digital banking is something that remains in our life time ago. Okay, in Spain, for example, in the year 2015, we have 80 entities playing in the fintech universe. Nowadays, we have more than 550 in this year playing, lending a lot of services, not only cryptocurrencies. It's a market that we have details here for lending services, neobanks, and a lot of advising products that help help this universe to be stronger day by day. What is the volume of trading volume of these crypto assets or virtual assets? The top 10 is curious because the trading volume today, the leader is not the Bitcoin, it's the Tether. The leader in the trading volume worldwide. The second one is the Bitcoin. The third one is the Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, BNB, Chainlink, Binance, USD, Terra. These are the main cryptocurrency that are trading in the world, and there is no frontier for this crypto. Then it's a reality that more and more, not only young people are investing or spending money. Maybe we need to use both verbs. If a supervisor, if the authorities don't want to talk about invest, it's clear that it's possible to talk about spend. Then it's clear that you spend your money or you invest your money. I don't mind. You put your money in this kind of these products. That's the reason, because more and more we consider key that the authorities try to regulate as soon as possible this kind of challenge that we have on the table. In Spain, for example, our enforcement body, Civil Guard, Guardia Civil, is absolutely aware of this topic. And they explain in the last operations that they say very clear that investigation in which there is no participation of cryptocurrency is already rare nowadays. More and more, the organized crime and the drug dealers try to hide the profit that they have with this business, with this dirty business, using this kind of tools. That's this kind of products. For that reason, it's very important try to regulate as soon as possible in a sound way this kind of digital products. And what about your country? It's important that everyone, all compliance officers, of money laundering officers, in close link with authorities, we need to try to understand what kind of assets or what kind of money, of currency is these products. It's a very big universe that is progressing very fast, and it's important try to understand what I am dealing with. At the beginning, 5 years ago or 6 years ago, when we began to help to our clients to try to avoid sanctions or potential sanctions for dealing in this field, we compare more than fiat or currencies. In my view, is more a comparison with the gold, for example. The gold, when you invest in gold, you are not sure most of time if it's a real gold or not a high quality gold. In the same line, it's important if the authorities issue legislation explaining how can I invest in gold, why don't you do the same in these kind of products? Then organizations from different parts of the world have warned of the risk of investing in this type of assets due to the its scan legislation. For example, the US Fed and the British FCA, as our colleague has recently mentioned, has been working as soon as possible. And in Spain, we have 3 bodies that we are going to explain you that are facing this problem for this new industry, for trying to regulate, for trying to considering that investing in cryptocurrency, they need to consider the opacity and complexity and the high volatility of these currencies. For that reason, we discovered that there is legal gaps according to its regulated activity. It's a universe too complex, and it's not only to talk about crypto assets. It's not the same. The world of the NFT is another world, the cryptocurrency, the crypto assets. Then it's growing up very fast, and the diversity that we are facing is very complex. The second point is the ignorance of compliance or simple consideration as a cost, but the players, but the companies that lend this kind of services. Then part of this company love to swim in this strange sea, but others prefer to have a more comfortable environment for doing the business in the right way. Then AML is clear that is some consideration that we need to do, and the IDD, enhanced due diligence, is imperative for knowing, for improving our KYC projects. Then one of the things that is clear is that neobanks are improving, are implementing worldwide in a very, very fast. They are growing very fast and create new banks that help them and help these new kind of investors for trying to do the business as well. But the combination between these neobanks and the regulation worldwide, if you have a world map, you can see that in a lot of countries, there is no regulation regarding this. There is no regulation for the operators that want to do the business, and no regulation for protection the investors. And in other, they are very young or draft versions of regulation that I will explain what is the case in Spain, and we are studying on detail what are the progressive regulation that in other countries with the Spanish language, for example, Latin America, it's clear that Latin America is not a single region for doing this, because for example, Mexico is different to Venezuela, to Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, Chile. In each country, it's different how they can face this problem, this business, and they are very young in the draft version of the regulation for doing this. Then it's absolutely important to update the crypto reality in Spanish language world, not only in Spanish language. Then, for example, we are now working in several projects, not only in Spain. We are helping to companies in Argentina, in Brazil, in Colombia, in Peru, for trying to help to the legislator how to face this problem, considering that, for example, the clients that we advise in Spain, for example, Binance is one of our clients, and we have been helping them to obtain the license for being a full compliance operator in Spain. Okay, what about the universe in our environment? In our environment, in our country, there are the main requirements to operate legally here are two. First, to have a registration with the national authorities if you want to be an operator in this system. And secondly, if you finally obtain this license for an accurate operator, you need to have some requirements, and mainly the onboarding process is the key topic for doing this. You can imagine that AML and screening processes plus big data plus onboarding with approved digital signature are the three key factors that entities must comply in our market. Then, for example, for operators who want to be officially recognized in our market, is imperative a requirement of the authorities for the presentation of some documents of the registry of entities of Bank of Spain to be able to operate. These documents are the powers of attorney, the criminal certificate of each individual or criminal certificates for the legal person, professional resumes who are going to do the business in the company, and certificate of honor. And it's not only necessary to give the authorities these documents, must be officially digitally signed. It's not only a paper, a white paper, putting some figures and putting some information. It's necessary to have certified digital firm. And secondly, and I will go in detail in the next slides, in the next chapters, the onboarding process that will be applied with the famous risk-based approach. Then, nowadays, as I have mentioned, there are three bodies, three authorities that pay attention to the regulation in Spain, the young regulation, the minimum regulation that is required. One is the tax agency, Agencia Tributaria, tax agency. Second, the Bank of Spain. And three, the CNMV, our own SEC. Yes, the CNMV has issued a gray list that is included, and you can look up in the doing Google, you can put CNMV Spanish gray list, and you obtain a PDF detail what are the suspicious entities, but it's not forbidden entities, it's suspicious entities. That's the reason, because it's not a blacklist, it's a gray list that they can, they display in the list, so they can neither declare it illegal, nor can they endorse its services, because they are beyond its supervision. They say, I am not responsible if these entities commit a fraud with you. There are more than 100, between 90 and 100 entities in this field. Very famous operators in crypto worldwide is included in this gray list, and they want to go ahead of this list. And how can you go out of this list? You can present the 4 documents that I have mentioned, plus a manual of procedures on money laundering prevention, and a risk assessment document showing to the supervisor what is the business that you want to do in your market. And second, commercial and professional honorability requirement based on the 4 documents that I have mentioned. This is today. Then today, the CNMV has issued a circular named 12022 in January the 10th, that explain in no more than 2 or 3 pages that crypto assets has, considering the growing presence in the financial system, that poses challenge in this field of investor protections, it's important to pay attention that they need to develop the rules, principles, and criteria for advertising activity in crypto assets. Then they need to cover some advertising activity for showing the market that is a very high risk products for investing this. Regarding tax, our tax agency has prepared two documents today, the tax model 720 and 729 for foreign countries, that technically there is no difference between the sale of cryptocurrencies and the sale of shares. They have faced this problem, this product, trying to compare that cryptocurrency is quite similar to shares. Then it is considered a capital gain to be integrated into the saving base and with a taxation range between 19% and 26%. Then, depending on the amount of money that you have obtained as profits, you need to pay tax for this. No VAT is included in this kind of products, okay? Then, as a summary, what are the key topics that I have sharing with you for these bodies, the tax agency, the Bank of Spain, and the CNMV? Customer identification is key with a risk-based approach. Second, a registry of cryptocurrency operators in the Bank of Spain. And in the case of having cryptocurrency in the international purchase, you need to use the form 729, and in the declaration of income, assets, and rights nationally is the 720. These are the three topics that you need to consider, the three fields with these three bodies, official bodies, that need to present this information if you want to play the game in this new universe. Okay. Other thing that I would reflect with you, and considering that my time is reduced now, is that it's necessary to be cautious that we have a capillary ecosystem and the casuistry unknown by the legislator. There is a low awareness of the regulatory dangers and the penalties by entities, and the ignorance and lack of definition and dilution of responsibility between both. Then, what about the next future? In the next future, we will receive from Europe its next approval of the MiCA. Maybe you are familiar with this word. The MiCA is similar than MiFID for a stock exchange. It's the next approval will regulate the issuance of certain crypto assets and the provision of services such as advice of management of crypto assets, the custody and the sale of this. Secondly, in this month is drafting a project for the transposition of the final European regulation of the prevention of money laundering that requires sharing information about the beneficiary owner and the ordering party in the transfer of crypto assets, among other legislative proposals. And finally, the European Parliament and the Council reached an agreement last April, during this month, on the DSE, the Digital Service Law. Is a law that will detail some concerns very relevant for operators who want to operate in our market. It's important that, based on this, you think about what is the situation in each of your country. It's clear that the craving of the growth of entities in line with the speed of the technology and digital culture is exponential increase the number of users, not only the number of players, and the progressive increase in digital customer culture, multi-age, young and senior, then it's important to facilitating the usability of this. Then, and at the end, I need to share with you, in my view, what are the 5 topics that could be key for the future of this regulation. First, focus on dangerous transactions, not suspicious, dangerous, based on thresholds. is very important because a lot of people can spend or invest tiny amounts of money. And in my view, this is not suspicious. Maybe in the future, as a consequence of similar practice with a smart feed, could be done. But nowadays, we need to pay attention for, in my view, dangerous transactions, depending on the amount of money that is invested in this kind of products. Second, to set up a very robust risk-based approach, screening of the profiles of the investor with the threshold has passed. 3, the big data monitoring is key. Better transaction monitoring, that industry focus, in my opinion. Number 4 is to focus in high risk profiles, individuals and corporations with the investment of big amounts of money investing in crypto. And 5, when you have set up your risk-based approach or your onboarding process, the biometric onboarding solutions apply by thresholds. Of course, I have more things to share with you if you want, but I don't want to spend a lot of time, and I want to share with my colleagues the time. I will be more than happy if you want to know more details. I will share with you the presentation that it was a pity not to share with you, but maybe it could be better if you can read after the presentation. And we are open to receive your feedback or questions. And I will be more than happy if in the future I can attend any project, single project with one of you. Thank you very much, Andres, and the rest of organizers for giving me time for sharing with you this patient link between us. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Luis. Before we continue with our next presentation, let's take a short question and answer break, or since we have reached the middle of our webinar, and questions are popping up, so it would be good idea to take care of some. So the first question comes from Mr. Prajesh Lal, and this is for both Alice and Luis. And the question is there any AML certificate issued by any government on the processes adopted in tokenization?
Okay. In terms of the UK, if you're thinking about AML certificates, all UK regulators seem to require you to self-certify, but AML is part of the regulatory requirements if you are required to register for the FCA. You'd have to demonstrate your AML compliance policies, but there's no such thing as getting a certificate from the government to say that you've done enough. It is up to you to work that out.
Thank you, Alice, for sharing your thoughts. In our opinion, any AML certificate issue up to date for any government is very young. The regulation regarding this, I can imagine that more and more each country will produce this kind of certification because, as I have explained, our experience worldwide is that it's quite different how each country deal these products, and first the products and second the risks. Then it's clear that, in my view, money laundering is the key topic nowadays, because considering that is legal, illegal, or no legal, then you have three types of situations. It's very easy for try to hide big amounts of money to use these kind of products. But the reality is that more and more normal people want to spend and invest money in these kind of products. Then more and more will be issued, I'm sure that my recommendation is that when you want to obtain any certificate, don't look up if it's official or not, if it's strong or not, is practice or not, is theoretical or practice, is clear or not. And my first recommendation is try to spend a tiny amount of money. If you are not invested still in these currencies, for example, I invest in Bitcoin 5 years ago when the price of the Bitcoin was very low. Then it's curious, okay, could be a scam. You have more than 10,000 crypto in the world, then it's a reality. And more I can imagine that will arise at first expert certificates more than official certificates, is my recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Now we move on with our next speaker, Ms. Adebola Ugbebor. She is a compliance risk manager who, beyond the job, is extremely passionate about improving and driving the compliance culture within the organization as a whole. She has over 10 years of experience with the compliance space and has been a part of several risk and compliance teams in both cross-border, multi-diverse Pan-African fintech and established financial institutions. She is highly skilled in financial investigations and the general implementation of effective AML CFT programs. Implementation, enforcement, and updating of compliance policies and standards within business units, products and services are also her very strong area of competence. She is constantly on the lookout for new trends, information, typologies in the compliance space, and enjoys training and helping people to understand their role in mitigating compliance risks. Adebola, please, mic is yours.
All right, thank you, Andres. Hello, everyone. It's been an interesting session so far. I'm happy to see the questions, particularly the one which has just been taken right about now on, having an AML certificate issued. And I'll just take my presentation starting from where Louis ended it in terms of focusing more on the implementation and having a strong compliance standard and process, rather than focusing on the AML certificates, from the government, because that's not the ultimate test in terms of your processes. That's really, it's just a document which gives you a pass, but not necessarily a document that says, your processes are satisfactory, they're strong enough, and they're able to help your company substantively. Okay, so I was focusing specifically on how we can take out the AML compliance issues before starting a crypto project. I have a slide guide, a presentation guide. Unfortunately, I can't share that. But basically, I'm speaking on the crypto AML regulatory landscape generally, which we've had a lot of introductions on. I'd also plan to show, a very nice, fancy regulatory framework for cryptocurrency across the world, and how several jurisdictions across the world are catching as much on in terms of having either tax-related regulations, in terms of having whether AML-related regulations, in terms of having a little bit on how crypto can be advertised, how it can be traded, and all of that. So generally, from what I see, from what we see within globally, we see that about 103 jurisdictions, have now caught on and in some type of way put up regulations that guide how cryptocurrency is handled. So you have some jurisdictions that are big on tax compliance, and then you also have certain other jurisdictions that are big on AML, CFT compliance, and you also have certain other jurisdictions which are focused more on, protecting their citizens and ensuring that, crypto can be traded publicly, can be accessed by the citizen. So in some type of way, globally, there's some awareness, then that's the essence of that conversation. A lot of things have changed between 2018 and now. Regulators are catching on. You see FATF now finally, putting in structures in terms of recognizing crypto assets. You have directives now going out on how they should be handled. So there's been a lot of significant regulatory change. And what's important for us, and our takeout here is there's no going back on crypto currencies. There's certainly not going back on it. And in terms of driving crypto projects as a company, it's something that we have to now look at having the regulator in mind, because they're definitely coming. It's not something we can run away from. It's something that is here to stay. Okay, so briefly, we have jurisdictions like the EU, like Spain, Africa, South America, coming up specifically strongly on what is to be done. Just as Alice had said, the UK now requires some sort of registration with the FCA. That's to show you that, stronger directives will be coming the crypto way soon. Okay, and as a crypto project, as a crypto startup, we want to be ahead, because certainly if you wait for the regulator to come in with these directives and you haven't positioned your business or your projects appropriately, you can be caught unawares. You can, find out that your business may not survive some of these directives when they are eventually put forward. So it's important that it's a strong consideration when business propositions are being made for crypto projects and crypto startups. Okay, so the crux of my presentation hovers around how we can drive the AML culture and tick out the regulator's checklist just before the regulator gets in there. Okay, thankfully, we find out that a lot of crypto regulations are just right behind the fiat regulation. So in terms of implementation, in terms of what is to be done, there are no additional requirements which we haven't seen. It's still the same, knowing who you're dealing with. It's still the same, having automated or robust systems that can, help you manage your transactions. So it's pretty much something that can be done, can be achieved, and should be achieved. So in driving that AML culture and ticking out your regulator's checklist, the first thing you want to do is do as much regulatory assessment within your jurisdiction. Now, like I previously mentioned, there are certain jurisdictions that are averse to, advertising crypto activities, crypto projects. They haven't outrightly banned these activities, but they're saying you can't come out in public spaces here in Africa, for instance, and say you're dealing with crypto projects, or you have a crypto company, or you're trading in crypto activities. Certain regulators are still adverse to it, albeit they haven't fully banned it. So in having a crypto project, first thing you need to do is extensive regulatory surveillance. You need to be sure that there are no already set requirements by the regulator in that should be followed or should be adhered to, because you don't want to start a project that is going to be stifled by the regulator eventually. So that's something that you need to look at. So you need to look at your country-specific jurisdiction AML regulators' requirements. You need to mirror whatever it is that you're doing and have it, at par with whatever has already been set, just to ensure that whatever new proposals are brought by the regulator, you've already mitigated those risks. More importantly now is the robust email technique, which needs to be set up for every crypto organization or every crypto project, using AI and all of the machine learning. We've had tremendous progress within the crypto space. We've had key players like chain analysis, we've had key players like Elliptic, which have driven use of artificial intelligence to help and analytics to help, create some sort of controls in terms of sanctions management, in terms of prohibited jurisdiction management, in terms of prohibited activities management, so that needs to be thoroughly considered. You need to first also determine what your own specific goals are as a business in terms of what AML program will do for your business. So are you focusing on particular assets? Are you looking at a generic asset? Are you looking at off-chain transactions? Are you looking at on-chain transactions? So you need to understand the specific AML requirements that will suit your business model in particular. Louis also mentioned around assessment, risk assessment. That's extremely important as well in just being one step ahead of the regulator. You need to review all that has been implemented. You need to schedule internal control reviews and reassess it. You need to be sure that, they're strong enough to stand whatever policies can be laid down or not be laid down. More importantly is having identified all of this, is to document as much as possible. You can't do all of this without significantly documenting your processes, without significantly documenting your milestones, without significantly documenting what's important, what is being done, what has been achieved, and where you are. Okay, so once that is done, documented, you need to significantly align with a licensing regime. I've said this because we are aware that certain jurisdictions are coming up with licensing regimes for AML crypto companies, exchanges, VSSPs. So what is important is once the house is in order, whilst you're preempting the regulator, you need to start positioning your business for being aligned with specific licensing regime, albeit that they are not, aligned with your jurisdiction at the moment. That kind of gives your company a boost. And when you're engaging the regulator significantly within your jurisdiction, it's clear that you've made certain progress, you have track record, and it's just easier to, be a strong player within your jurisdiction. Okay, so that's essential. So that's the two-way you're handling the next step of driving your crypto project just before your regulator comes in. You make sure that internally your systems are set up, your systems are in line with best standard. At the moment, we have the EU directives, we have the FATF guidelines, which kind of drives quite a number of AML systems and frameworks, so you need to ensure that whatever it is that your business is doing is cascaded right below all of those marks, just like as in fiat transactions. And then ultimately now beginning to get a bit external and branching out into aligning with some licensing regime. That also helps business in developing outside your jurisdiction and, getting all that partnership engagement and all of that. Okay, so once that is done, you need to document your reports. You need to ensure that your house is properly in order. And when the regulators are around and are ready to, put forth their directives, put forth their regulations, you've already gone one step ahead. You've already ensured that, you have all of the basic requirements. You've already positioned yourself as a business. And what eventually happens to projects or businesses which are already positioned by the time the regulator is, implementing changes, is that such players are now even consulted. Such players are used as, the yardstick in implementing frameworks and driving changes within whatever jurisdiction that change is happening. So it's important that, that's a strong consideration before every crypto project is embarked on, ensuring that where the regulators are not available, where they haven't, duly accepted all of the AML standards, you are one step ahead of it. Okay, so generally, once this is concluded, once this is fully driven, you have your AML all set up, you have your KYC compliance processes all set up. You're then able to, move on to the next step, which is, launching to your full business activities. Just because I'm trying to be conscious of time now, there's certain AML processes which, are important, which are mandatory. Like I've said, these are the same with existing KYC, AML frameworks for fiat transactions, and same can be applied for crypto transactions. Okay, so generally now, as I begin to conclude, the cryptocurrency world is constantly evolving and is constantly changing. We've seen these new initiatives and policies within the sector. We've seen that the crypto world is now also taking into consideration strong fiat AML KYC requirements. And it is essential that, in driving sanctions and counterterrorism laws, our crypto projects are straddled alongside. It's also essential we use as much blockchain analytics solution in driving our KYC AML adherence, and just generally making sure that cryptocurrencies are safer for our users and the economy as a large. So our focus should be on ensuring that our trading of crypto assets are compliant, regardless of what framework is existing or non-existent. That shouldn't be the key focus. Rather, we should ensure that we remain compliant as organizations. We've had several global cases where wallets from exchanges have been seized and confiscated. We've also had OFAC, coming up strongly with sanctioned wallets and all of that. So the consequences of non-compliance can be severe. It can be public and can be significantly damaging to our reputation as companies. And of course, it's without need saying that this can have negative impact generally on our revenue, so it's important that, we take into strong consideration setting up all of these AML frameworks just before they even get implemented in our jurisdictions. And even when they're implemented, it's essential that we are aligned, with these requirements, registrations, reporting, and ultimately we're able to, get as much revenue as, we require. So yeah, so that's it basically on, ensuring that our regulatory hurdle from an AML CFT perspective is scaled out, and, you can take it out of your list in starting up that crypto project. Thank you.
Again, this microphone problem. Thanks for very insightful information. And now we are ready to move on with our final speaker, Advocate Mr. PM Mishra, who happens to be the managing partner of Finjuris Counsel. He is a lawyer by profession and an international legal consultant who specializes in anti-money laundering, fintech, blockchain, and crypto, also venture capital and forex broker compliance, and regulatory aspects related to those issues or topics. He possesses immense knowledge in the field of technology, and law, which makes him really passionate about understanding upcoming technologies and interpreting law for the same. He is the founder of Finlaw Consultancy in India, Finlaw Associates in India, and PCH Consulting in Europe as well. His deep understanding of technology, law, and specialization in white-collar crime litigation serves the purpose for a new crypto startup who are in trouble finding the path to start their fintech startups in crypto and blockchain space. Mr. Mishra, please, microphone is yours.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Alice. Thanks, Adebola. Thanks, Louis, for real insightful, knowledgeable session so far. I was a listener so far, and I was just waiting for my turn, when exactly my turn will come. Everyone, like whatever I heard so far, every country is talking about anti-money laundering, controlling, regulating cryptocurrency and digital assets. Frankly speaking, if at all anybody would like to catch hold of air, nothing will come in their hand. Technology is based on logic, law based on centralization. And it's a fight between centralized forces and decentralized forces. Here, the old methodology of putting things and creating some compliances and giving the state gigs to execute it is absolute impossible in case of local level. Right now, across the globe, from small countries till bigger one, from small economy till big one, mid-size, all the economies and all the countries, they are facing a kind of question mark in their mind, how to control this digital asset movement. Actually, that's the biggest question in their mind. What is anti-money laundering? 90% of the countries, they don't treat crypto. You are saying digital asset, it's not money. When you say AML, anti-money laundering, I'll say it's not anti-money laundering. Change the narration. Number one. Number two, it needs the global, all the countries or most of the countries, union, a kind of regulatory bodies, cooperation with each other to find out a global solution. I'll give an example of SWIFT, IBAN, lot of organizations are there. They are passing the value, they are facilitating the transfer of funds and a lot of stuff. Here the questions are, one of the smaller countries is opening the gate and saying, okay, my country is right now the heaven for crypto. The last one is UAE. UAE is right now the heaven for crypto. I'm sitting in UAE. So it's a heaven for crypto. The narration is going on. We are offering you the licenses. We are offering you the facilities. Let's come and, go for the license and run your exchanges. Before UAE, most of the smaller countries in Europe, like Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, and Habo, so they are having their own licenses in place. Wallet license, crypto exchange license. The guys from from Asian countries, the Chinese, Indian, Malaysian, they go for those countries like Estonia. What kind of license you have? I have the license of Estonian license to run crypto exchange. Sitting in India, sitting in China, sitting in Singapore, sitting in Malaysia, somebody is running the exchange which has got the license from Estonia. So the issue is quite complicated when you try to really say, okay, let's implement anti-money laundering policy. I would say, if you would like to implement it, then as far as the implementation of the stuff is local level, it is not possible because it's a global phenomenon. Absolutely global phenomena. If you want to control in your own country, let's say how to control. The countries, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of IT Ministry, Have they ever discussed about how to control the transfer of funds from your country to another country? They don't require any permission. Number two, there are two nets, dark net and the internet. There are different ways to pass on. So now the question is, if you want these startups, big names are there from Binance till Kraken, you name it, any one of the biggest exchanges those are running. You ask them how exactly they're operating, how they're operating in so many countries, sitting in one country. Questions are like, USDT is a stable coin. Have you ever asked about what is the base of USDT, from where it comes from, who controls it? Then as a stable coin, by using that USDT, lot of citizens of different countries, lot of startups, they involve in money laundering, open money laundering. Here the question is regulatory bodies approval. These guys, those are running their own organizations as crypto startups just to save them. What they are doing, they're applying. Suppose right now in Estonia, there is no license, they will go for Lithuania. If it's not there, they will go to Spain. If it's not there, they will go to UK, London. London is just probably right now opening up. Previously, without any license, a lot of organizations were running over there, then clamped down by the regulatory. Then now again, people are moving back to UK. So the question is really big. Then let's come to the fact, what exactly going on in crypto industry? Now every second venture is a decentralized venture. There is no one who is basically the owner. If there is no owner, then what kind of license they will seek for? Number one, they are the foundations, they are the cooperative organizations, are the member of the organizations, those are there in the decentralized space. They are responsible, each one is responsible for any crimes happening within the community. So it's a very large question. When people are asking me about anti-money laundering, AML policies, whatever I understood as a lawyer, from a normal perspective, that is absolutely doesn't stand in case of crypto space, digital asset space. I will never ever accept cryptocurrency as a currency. It's a digital asset. Now the question is, if at all any money laundering policy will be implemented, just my question is like, you all are very knowledgeable guests. So I just would like to know how in a decentralized organization, first of all, the definition of decentralization is quite big. How is it possible to implement AML in a decentralized space? If anyone has got an answer or anyone got any kind of suggestion, please provide me so that I can pass on to several countries, regulatory authorities, those are in my touch. They stuck up over there. They have the same questions. Somehow, I always answer this. It's a time of globalization. All these decentralized organizations, you can take it as a cooperative organization. Because the real definition of cooperative organization is every member is an owner of a cooperative organization, and there will be one chairman or manager who organizes, but he has no responsibility. But for each thing, he needs the permission or vote from the member of the organization. So the concept will be little different from centralized one. Implementing anti-money laundering policies, regulatory compliances in a centralized organization like centralized exchanges like Binance and other things are possible. But if you want to implement the same policies in Uniswap, you want to implement the same policy in PancakeSwap, you want to implement the same thing in tokenization place like maybe YFI, you are talking about Compound, you are talking about Solana, Cardano, you can't implement it. Polygon, they are all decentralized, they are in decentralized space, so nobody's the owner. Who will go by it? If they will go by it, then there will be centralized organization, centralized one. Then somebody must be responsible for it. So that's the issue with AML policy. So to say, without taking much time of the audiences and my colleagues, I'll say it's a very complex area of this thing. Like everyone, every professional should think about it from both the angle, logical and legal. Try to think much larger than the way localized law thinks about it. Then we might contribute something for the global audience, how they can run the show. None of the crypto organizations across the globe can say, I'm 100% compliant, not even Coinbase. It's on record. I've given so many interviews. I'm absolutely asking them thousands of questions. Are you compliant? You are talking about your clients are there in X country. You are sitting in US. You are compliant with the local law. How about the international law? Have you ever think about it? So there are larger questions to it. And with a lot of questions, I would like to end here. Thanks a lot for listening me, and maybe we all colleague and audience will get through this topic more in the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mohan, and thank you all the speakers. And now we move on to our questions and answers session, which will be taken over by my colleague, Ms. Ashwati Kottai. So, Ashwati, can you please continue from here?
Sure, Andres. So thank you all the speakers for enlightening us about this topic. Now, I have a question for Adebola. Adebola, are you there?
Yes, Ash, I can hear you.
All right. So the very first question is, how would the decision taken by Central African Republic to adopt Bitcoin as a payment currency have an impact on the African crypto industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the exciting updates we've had in recent times concerning crypto progress in Africa. But look, Africa is a big and major consumer of cryptocurrency. So it's a bomb that is waiting to explode ultimately. Everyone is going to catch the fire. It's coming slowly, but it's definitely coming. I think what the news with Chad has done right now is going to make some regulators less shy. And I'm putting it in the mildest of forms, because you have a lot of regulators who have just been very aversive and have just not come out to put a position. It's going to also see some relaxation in policies or directives. We're hoping that regulators who have outrightly banned or prohibited crypto activities will now begin to review a revisiting of such positions. So ultimately, I mean, it's going to be impactful. It's going to be slow, not very fast. It takes us quite a long time to implement changes in this part of the world, especially because of the nature of crypto. Crypto is very sensitive because of the volatility and all of the impact it could have on the economy. But it's coming. It's coming. People are going to become less averse. You see businesses as well beginning to move into that jurisdiction, and once that begins to come, then you see other countries beginning to, oh yeah, we can do this. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, so it's good news for Africa, and then we hope that other countries are coming right behind.
All right, Adebola, I have another question from you. Now, this question is from Eliza Ito. We are beginning to see central banks in Africa coming up with central bank digital currencies, but they are not generally patronized by the general public, in contrast with other digital assets like crypto, Bitcoin, stablecoins. What do you think a fintech startup planning to venture into the crypto market can do to conduct their business without being sanctioned or penalized by the regulatory authorities?
Oh, sorry. I was on mute. Okay, that's an interesting question. To be honest, you cannot force adoption of currencies. People adopt use of currencies on a value basis, you know. So a lot of use of cryptocurrencies currently at the moment is hedged on value proposition. Am I able to make returns on my investment? Am I able to, you know, use it as a means of exchange? Am I able to use it as some sort of investment, you know, for myself? You know, so you can't particularly drive or force the adoption of cryptocurrencies. However, the CBDCs in some jurisdictions have been successful, and then in other jurisdictions not as successful. Sometimes these things take a while to develop. Some come in and immediately catch the fire in terms of adoption, and sometimes these things have to just stir a while, and you know, gradually people understand that it's available, it's also an option, and you know, significant downturn in popularly adopted currencies, you know, could also turn the market into the other CBDCs direction. So that it isn't doing as well initially doesn't particularly say there might not be a downturn and upturn in events subsequently that, you know, can drive adoption. You know, but having said that, going into a business, a crypto business in a jurisdiction that isn't particularly receptive, I can understand that there are concerns of regulatory infractions. However, like I said, you know, in my presentation, the first thing that needs to be done is thorough regulatory assessment. You know, so just be sure that whatever you're proposing is not a direct contravention of what already is existing. If it is, then you need to look for another jurisdiction that can support your activities and hedge on that jurisdiction. You know, so I hope that clarifies.
Thank you, Adebola. We have a question for Advocate PM Mishra. How does the IMF and other big banks worldwide see the cryptocurrency? Are they going to view this as the next method for payment?
Can you please repeat the question, please?
Sure, sir. How does the IMF and other big banks worldwide see the cryptocurrency? Are they going to view this as the next method for payment?
See, as far as my observation goes, none of the central bank or IMF would ever, you know, accept the fact that cryptocurrency will be a currency and we can just adopt it as a payment settlement method, because that will change the whole perspective of current centralized power controlling the currency and printing the currency kind of stuff. So that's absolutely out of question that it will ever be a payment settlement method.
All right, there's another question for you. How can one start a successful crypto project globally without worrying about its legal implication?
See, frankly speaking, to start a crypto currency organization or any kind of venture, we need to look at one thing: what exactly you need to achieve as far as innovation is concerned, and then where exactly you want to flourish, which part of the world, depends upon the futuristic view of the current government and existing laws that consist of criminal side of it and the financial regulation, existing financial regulation. Even if in that country there is no regulation for crypto, their approach will be decisive. What kind of licensing, what kind of process you need to follow in that country. Because most of the countries, they have introduced their own crypto wallet license, their advisory license, their tokenization license, but having their own preconditions. Looking at the factor, if at all you people can plan a multi-country setup, that will be really beneficial.
Thank you. My colleague, Mr. Andres, will now conclude the webinar.
Do you also see the Q&A part of this like screen, that not the chat, but like special QA? I think there are some more questions there.
You can please ask, Mr. Andres, you can please put some question to Alice. There are some questions for Alice as well.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
So, question to Alice. What are the recent changes you have observed in the crypto industry in United Kingdom? Are these changes favorable for the industry?
So there have been quite a lot of developments and changes in the UK crypto industry recently, and who you are makes a difference to how favourable they are. So as has been sort of mentioned, there are a number of people, a number of different actors in the crypto industry, all working to slightly different ends. Whether you are impressed or hampered by the regulations which have changed is going to depend a lot on what you're doing. So as I said, NFTs are a currently very unregulated industry. That hasn't really experienced any differences, so it's rather favourable to NFTs and other digital assets in that space. However, because there is now a focus on function as opposed to form, if you have an NFT that has actually a monetization value or some sort of tokenization value, then that is now starting to be caught by the regulations. So there are moves in the UK regulatory space to put things into categories and to regulate those categories and to apply various different levels of risk-based control to those categories. Overall, it's probably a good thing for the industry because it does weed out the people who have damaged the industry's reputation by rug pull scams, by various different types of token scams, and also aligning NFTs and cryptocurrencies with issues around ransomware and sanctions evasion. So it's probably good for the industry overall, but it does mean that there are additional regulatory hurdles you must navigate before you can operate in the UK space.
Okay, thank you. I think the other questions that I see here are already covered from one part of or the other. Do you think that the current anti-money laundering derivate is robust enough to tackle the issue of money laundering? Who wants to answer this one?
That was probably a question for Luis, because he's the only country which was directly affected by the MLDs. The UK has adopted them, but they're no longer, as the UK left the EU, they're no longer directly applicable, although it's likely that the UK will continue to adopt them. From a UK market perspective, it is unlikely that this is the right question. The real question is, in a situation where cryptocurrency is advancing, crypto assets being more considered, as is distributed technology and blockchain in general, are we investing the right resources, the right training and the right processes to make sure that the right people are asking these questions? And that is something we will just have to wait and see.
Yeah. So about big banks and IMF, how they relate to cryptocurrency, I think this we more or less covered with Mr. Mishra. Or how does the IMF and big bank worldwide see the cryptocurrency? Do they see it as a method of payment? This is something that you already covered. So we can, I guess, wrap it up. Yep. Thank you. Thanks Aswati, and thanks Alice, Louise, Adebola, and Mohan for spreading some light to this those crypto-related topics. and we hope to see you again in our upcoming webinars. Thank you all the participants who were watching and listening to this webinar, and I wish you all a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your attention.
Thanks.